So about a year ago, I fully automated my marketing agency at the age of 24 down to about 4 hours per week of work. I had 3 people in the business aside from myself. I had a full-time appointment setter who would call leads and book appointments, a full-time sales rep who would take those appointments and sign new clients, and I had a full-time operations manager who would manage the clients and the client work. I really just had to take meetings and deal with the odd 1 or 2 things per week. And for the first time ever, last year in August, I was able to take 10 days off, go to Europe, and have the business run completely on its own without me. The only thing is, it was very far from like that from the beginning. So to take you back in time, I started this business in 2020. I was completely on my own, and when I started this business, I was seeing on YouTube thumbnails and this kind of thing that marketing agency owners were losing 80-90% of their clients overnight when COVID hit the news. So obviously that's pretty terrifying for me. I'm going into this business not really sure what to do, how to do it, or anything like that. So I'm a one-man show. I'm making basically nothing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know how I'm going to pull this off, but I know that my plan is to scale this thing very, very aggressively. Now, my first year was a pretty big challenge for me. I had a lot of ups and downs in terms of revenue. There were a lot of growing pains. I had really bad sales anxiety and all sorts of stuff. Now, in the beginning, there was one thing that I was really lacking, which were systems. Now, there are different ways that you can look at your business, and I really like looking at my business through a lens of systems because my goal from the beginning was to turn my business into a machine rather than just having it be some sloppy mess that always needs to be taken care of. That's the dream, right? Have a business that runs on its own without you. So what I wanted to do was, first I had to learn, how do I get clients? How do I service clients? How do I maximize client satisfaction and all these things? And it took me a couple of years to get to that point where everything was really, really, running well and I was able to manage my clients. But there came one very specific point in time where everything went completely sideways. And at this point in time, it was myself. I had a part-time virtual assistant who was helping me onboard clients. I was doing about $25,000 a month in revenue on average, and it was pretty challenging. What came after this, and things were relatively calm, relatively chill, because it was just me. I had another guy. My revenue was nothing crazy. Nice, high, healthy profit margins, and there wasn't too much work. Now, when I launched my YouTube ads, that's when everything changed and there was a pretty big problem. Now, if we fast forward a couple of years, this is where I ran my YouTube ads for the first time. This was starting in September of 2022. So it's a pretty funny story. I launched the ads and right out the gate, the first 5 days, the first 10 days, terrible results. I'm talking $100 plus lead costs in a business where really the target's to be around $20 or less. Very, very scary scenario. I was spending over $100 a day on my ads, and I'd never done this before. I had no idea what was going to happen, but at the time I was working with a coach and he recommended just let them sit. They'll sort themselves out. And by the 10-day mark, things really started to change. Lead costs were coming down. And that was much better, right? Much better for my peace of mind. But the lead costs were still very high. Although at this point, I started to get really excited because now that I had these people's phone numbers, I'm a big sales guy. So I'm going through calling all these numbers and I'm thinking, man, like if these are the numbers, like the ROI I can get is crazy here. So what ends up happening is by the end of September, by the end of that first month, my lead costs came down a lot. I'm talking, I had my first day where I had I think I had 11 leads just in that first month in one day. And, my lead costs had come down to as low as, like $11 in a single day or something like that. And I was extremely excited because whoa, look at what's about to happen to the business. But I did not realize how much work was going to come out of that as a result of my scaling. So fast forward another few weeks, we're into October, late October. I'd closed some deals, I'm positive on my ads, and now I'm starting to panic because I'm now averaging, 8, 9, 10, 11 leads per day, 7 days a week. And to keep up with that, it would take me 5-6 hours a day of calling these people. Not to mention, then I have to take all the sales calls that I'm booking, I have to service all the clients. Things are getting out of hand very, very quickly. So I hire an appointment setter, had some pretty bad experiences. This guy, he was good at booking appointments. The show-up rates were terrible. This guy didn't want to show up to work and he was making the craziest excuses. I'm talking, yesterday was my sister's birthday, which is why I wasn't there. And today's my dad's birthday, so I'm not showing up today either. Crazy. And that was a virtual assistant appointment setter that I had hired. So I had to fire him. At this point, my calendar's fully maxed out. I have a bunch of clients coming in. It's me with this part-time virtual assistant. I'd done $77,000 in a month of sales. Cannot keep up. I'm freaking out, so stressed out. Had to fire my appointment setter and hire a new one, but I didn't even hire a new one. Now we're into December because I wanted to wait until the new year because I was like, man, I need a week off right now. This is horrific. And the funny thing is that I took a week off and that made me feel no better. I came back, it was 9 days over the Christmas break that week. I came back and I felt no better. I paused my ads before leaving. And I took a week just to get, back up to date and make sure all the client ad accounts are doing well and everything. And then from there, I bring on a new appointment setter. And thankfully, I got very, very lucky actually. One of my longtime friends from back in high school, he was looking to change jobs and I was looking for a full-time kind of like operations manager to look over the clients and make sure just the business operations are being taken care of. And it was just beautiful timing that I signed him on. So I was working 12 days straight, all day, every day, just to make sure that he got trained up. So he handed in his 2 weeks with his job and we could only work a little bit part-time with him. So I'm still freaking out for a few weeks, scrambling to get all this stuff going, but I'm building systems in the process of doing all of these things, calling the leads, hiring the appointment setters, managing the client ad accounts, so on and so forth, so that I can hand these systems off to people and then not really have to worry about anything once they're fully trained up, which really only takes a few weeks for somebody to get 80-90% of the way there. So once all of this happens, once I install these systems, all of a sudden, all I have to do now is take sales calls. And it was really, really nice. So I had my second appointment setter after firing the first one. I now had Nick, my operations manager, in place. So I had 2 full-time employees at this point, and this was January of 2023. Now from here, I'm on sales calls. I'm taking, 35, 40 plus sales calls a week. That's starting to get really draining because on top of that, I'm also trying to, run the ads and push the business further and so on and so forth. So now I'm thinking, okay, I need to hire a sales rep. In hiring a sales rep, it was kind of funny because I actually, looking back, I prematurely hired, and I shouldn't have hired a sales rep when I did hire a sales rep, and that caused all sorts of problems to the level of me losing $85,000 within about 4 months, almost fully bankrupting myself. I've talked about that on this channel before. And then finally everything locked in, I got everything sorted. But through that process, I managed to get to a point where I was able to, only really work 4 hours a week on the business. My ads were maintained. I had some crazy headaches with that I can talk about another time. But my ads were being maintained. YouTube ads are a very low maintenance system, so that was really nice. Sales rep taking the calls, appointment setter booking the calls, operations manager managing 95+% of the client work, where all it really came down to for me was taking some calls with my team to make sure everything's running well and looking over my ad account to make sure that we have steady lead flow, appointment flow, so on and so forth. The biggest thing for me was installing the right systems. Now, I'm a huge logical analytical nerd. A lot of people in business are not like that. They're more creative. They have a bunch of ideas. Their businesses are become a mess and everything's all over the place. But what I learned from this experience is if you don't have the right systems in place, or if you just scaled up and then you don't have the systems, you really need to build the systems. If you don't have the systems, you're screwed. You won't be able to scale. Everything's going to become a mess. You're going to start hating your business and it's just going to become a nightmare. Now, if you want to build systems in your business, either to build really strong infrastructure so that you can scale very, very far, or so that you can free up 10 hours a week in your business, 20 hours a week in your business, 30, potentially 40 hours a week in your business, depending on where you're at in your business and whether that's possible for you. If you want my help in doing that, you can book a call with me in the description, whether it's for systemizing and scaling your business or whether it's for just building systems to free up time, because business owners just get completely overwhelmed with work. It's so easy to get stuck in the business, and systems are the answer. So if you want my help with that, my personal help with that, as well as Nick, my operations manager, he's really good at systems too, you can book a call in the description. Totally up to you. You don't have to. It's a paid service. But otherwise, you can click whatever video is popping up on screen now, and I'll see you there.